Welcome guys to this new video, and in this video we're going to see how to implement our sort functionality. That's for our sort icon over here. And what we want is practically to be able to sort data table records for these different fields in ascending or descending order. So for example, we might want to set the records in order of descending IDs. So we want this last ID to be the first record and so on, or in descending order of names or ascending order of names, ascending order of age. So yeah, we want to be able to handle that functionality. And what we're going to do practically is we're going to set up this icon such that when we click on this icon, we have a modal. So we're going to use modals once more, and in that modal we're going to be able to select the field for which we want the records to be sorted by and select the order. That's is it by either by ascending or descending order. So we're going to head over to our code, and this is what we have so far, just this filter which takes care of our searching functionality. So what we're doing is actually sorting in this video. So I'm going to do a couple of changes. What I want to do is I'm going to, just for clarity, I'm going to replace this the filter by a sort to sort button, and over here we want to render a sort button because it's sorting, not filtering. Alright. The first thing we have to take note of is that, as we said, when we click on this button, we want to open a modal. So obviously there's going to be some form of event handler attached to this span, such that when we click on this span, we have the action to open a modal. So I'm going to go ahead and write that event listener or paste that event listener here. So and now we have this event listener. It's simply an on-click event listener, and when we click on this sort button, what we want to do is we want to open a new modal, and that modal is going to be a sort modal. So before adding this modal or before bringing in this modal, I'm going to go ahead and add a new state over here, and that state is going to be called the sort key, because this actually was going to permit us to hold the value of our current sort parameter. That's what we want to sort our records by. Is it by name, or is it by matrical or gender, and so on. So we're going to hold all of that in a new state called the sort key. So and now we have this sort key state, which is practically just an object. So this object has two properties. So we have the key property and we have the order property. This key property holds the current field or column by which we want to sort our records. Is it the ID? Is it the name? Is it the matricle, and so on? Now if we look on our data table, we see that the records are ordered by their IDs, where we have the first ID, then 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's ordered in ascending order of their IDs. That's why the default state of this sort key is we have the first, that's the key prop, to be the ID and the order to be ascending, because that's actually how records are ordered on our data table for the moment, ascending order of their IDs. And what we want is when we click on um, our sort button, we want to be able to assign a new value for the key and a new value for the order, such that if the key is name, for example, and the order is ascending, we want to sort those records in ascending orders of their names and not more in ascending orders of their IDs, and so forth. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add this sort modal, such that when we click on this button, we have that modal opened, and in that modal we can go ahead and decide what we want to do, or the field we want to sort by, as well as the order we want to sort by. So I'm going to come beneath, that's down here beneath this delete modal, and I'm going to add a new modal. So I'm going to ascend back, and we have this sorting modal over here. So we now have this new modal over here, and it says sorting modal, and To better understand this model, I'm going to come to our browser to materialui and have us explore their list component, because actually the model here is simply a list model where we have list with different list items. So we're going to explore materialui's list component, and what we want is when we click on that sort icon, we want to have such a model pop up and different fields, that's clickable fields, one for the name, matricle, gender, and so on. And when we click on each field, we want to set the current state of our sort key to be the value of the field on which we clicked on. So if we click on name, then we are going to set the key of our sort key state to be this inbox. Well, we're not actually going to set it to in, we're going to set it to name. That's if name is actually the value that is found here. So a list item is simply a box, and that box is made up of these nav tags. So each nav tag, for example, contains list items, or it contains the actual list. So this all this over here, that's this group belongs to one nav tag, while this group belongs to another nav tag. So we have this divider here, and this divider is actually just this line that divides the two nav tags. So in each nav tag, we have a list component, and that list component is the actual list which contain these list items, because as you can see, these are actually list items, and the list items have this list button tag embedded in them. So the list button is actually what makes these items clickable. So to these list button tags, you can attach icons. Like over here, you see that in each list item button, you can attach or you can embed a list item icon. So for these ones over here, for these list items over here, they've got icons attached to them. But for the ones in this other list component, there are no icons attached to them. So you just have the empty list item buttons with some text inside. And this is actually this is actually how our own model is going to look like. It's simply a model which contains a list with list items and list item buttons, because we want the items or the items of the list to be clickable. So there are going to be list item buttons with list item text, no icons, just text. And when we click on the list item button, we want to perform an action, and that action is actually going to be to set the state of our sort key. So I'm going to return to our code, and now in our model, that's here's the model, we have this box, and the box now is what contains our list. So we have this first nav, that's our first group of list items. So in the nav, we have the first list item, and that first list item, here we have the button, that's what we want to be clickable. The text is going to be name, and when we click on this button, we want to set sort key, where the key is going to be the name, and the order is going to remain the same, that's the sort key dot order. So initially the order is ascending, and we have that ascending here. So when we click on the name, or we'll click on the name list item, we want to set the key to name, leaving the order the same. Same for the matricle. So we have another list item with a button where the text is going to be matricle, and on click of that button, we want to set the key to matricle. So we are going to have a divider, then a new that's a new group of list items. So in that group of list items, we are going to have one for the age, where on click we want to set the key to age, and yeah, we're going to do all of that. So beneath, that's right at the end of our model for sorting, we have this last group of list items, and in this group we have, instead of normal list item buttons, what we have here is a select field, and here we're actually setting the order, that's the sorting order, is it ascending or descending. So we're going to have this select field, and using this select field, we're going to be able to choose our sort order, if we want to sort by ascending order or by descending order. And here what we're doing is, on change of this select field, actually I just realized this is not necessary, so I might as well just copy this sort key and do that here, then delete this state. That's on change of the value of this sort field. What we want to do is we want to set our sort key to have the key value of the old key and have now a new order value of the new value of this sort field using this e.target.value. So this is actually where we change the order property of our sort key. So in all the remaining fields, we have been changing just the key value of our sort key, leaving the order unchanged. But here we actually change the order, leaving the key unchanged. So we have now a last list item of disable, and here in disable we want to set the sort key to its original state, that's with the key being the id and the order being ascending. That's to cancel any sort effect. So if we sort and at the end we want to revert back to the initial sort effect, which was actually sorting them by the IDs or in ascending order of the IDs, we can click on this disable button. That's the text of disable, and it's going to do just that, setting this so. And in each of these, we have this handle close where we close the model. So after setting the value of the sort key, we then proceed to close our sorting model. So if we save now and take a look at our browser, we see nothing, and I'm going to inspect our console to see why we have nothing displaying. So we have this error, list is not defined, and actually I forgot to import the list component. So I'm going to head over to where we have our imports, because now we added this new list component, so we have to make sure that that's imported from materialui. So let's paste this new group of imports, and now we're importing the list item button, list item text, and the divider components from materialui. So I'm going to save once more and head over to our browser. We now see everything displaying well, and if we click on this icon, we now have this model with the actual list components. So here's our first group of list components. That's the first nav, its divider, the second nav, its divider, and the last nav with this select field can use to change our select state. And now if we click on these buttons, we see nothing actually happens. All that happens is the model closes because of our handle close function. But what we actually want is when we click on these models, we want to sort these fields, and it's not doing that for the moment because we have not created any sort function, or we have not actually assigned anything to be done when each of these buttons is clicked on. So we're going to return to our code, and beneath where I have these functions for the crud operations, I'm going to add a new function. So let's add it here, and I'm going to arrange this a little bit. So now we have a sort by key function in place, and what this function does is it takes an array and it tries to sort the array in a particular order. Now that order is going to be determined by the order property of our sort key. So we're doing a switch, and in that switch we have two cases, because the order can either be ascending or descending. And in each of these cases, we are making use of the sort method of arrays, because we know arrays have a sort method. And what the sort method does is it sorts the array in a chronological order, because we are taking two parameters in this sort method, that's a and b. And in the first case, we want to sort for all the string fields. So on our table, we have the name, matricle, and gender fields as our string fields. So for any of these fields, that's if our sort key is either the name or the matricle or a gender, we want to perform this local compare. That's we're comparing A and B. And since as our sort field does that our sort method does that in a chronological order, it's going to sort our array, that's the array that has passed here, is going to sort that array in order of ascending records, that's from A to B, because we pass A to B. But in case our sort order is descending, we receive A and B as parameters, but we start sorting from B instead, or we start comparing from B, and this is going to do that in descending order. Now, that's in the case of our string fields, but in the case of our integer fields, such as the id, because the id is actually an integer field, we don't use this local compare method anymore, but we use just a minus b. So doing a minus b is going to sort, since as we're talking about integers here, we can actually use this minus operator, and that's going to sort our records in ascending order, because the default order is ascending, and doing AB chronologically sorts the array in ascending order. Whereas if the order is descending, we instead have to do B minus A to get the record sorted in descending order. So that's all about the sort method. We're just doing a switch case on the order of the key prop or the sort key prop to know the order in which we are going to sort the array. So if it's ascending order, then we want to sort the array chronologically in ascending order. Whereas if it's descending order, we want to sort the array in descending order. And the only difference between these two methods or these two returns is that here we're inverting the positions of B and A to be able to get that sorting effect or that order effect of ascending or descending. So with all that out of the way, what we have to do is descend to where we're mapping all our students, and we no longer want to map through all our normal student array, but we want to map through our sorted students. So what we're going to do is we're going to add that sort function. So we're going to have sort by key. So now I've added this sort by key function over here because we know that this sort by key function actually returns us a sorted array. So we are no longer mapping through our ordinary students array, but we are mapping through a sorted array, and each time the value of our sort key changes, our page is going to be re-rendered, and re-rendering the page, we are going to now have records for the sorted array, or we are going to have sorted records and no longer normal student records. So we are going to save this and check in our browser. So if I save this and check in the browser, I'm going to close the console. Now you see if I click here, we have this modal displayed, and if I click on name, we actually have our students sorted by names. So they are no longer sorted by IDs. As you can see, the IDs here in this accord, we no longer have 1 to 7. Yeah, but our names are sorted in ascending order of the alphabet. So we have A, B, D, and we have S, which is the last alphabet in our students record. So if I come back and change the order to descending, then we now discover that our first record starts with S and the last record instead starts with A. So we can change that from name to matrical, and the order is still descending because we've got K and A being the last. We can do descending order of H, and we see the first H is 19 and the last H is 16, or ascending order of H, and now the first H 16, 19, or we can disable. And now if we disable, we'll see that our records return back to that original state, that's ascending order of IDs. So that's practically it for these videos, guys. So we have our sort functionality implemented, and in the next video we're going to look at pagination, because so far we have all these functionalities set up except our pagination arrows. So thanks for watching, and see you guys in the next video.